In the freezing waters of the Arctic, a tragic event unfolded in the northern hemisphere that captured the world's attention. What begins as a regular winter day soon turns into a desperate fight for survival, as 10 orcas, including 4 calves, become trapped beneath the frozen sea. No one knows if they were chasing prey or migrating, but what's clear is that if nothing is done, disaster is imminent. What follows is a story of uncertainty, struggle, and a race against time that will push everyone involved to the brink. In the Arctic region, the water can go from being clear as day to massive blocks of ice due to a sudden cold brought on by a strong Arctic cyclone. Unfortunately for these orcas, this unusual occurrence happened while they were migrating. The orcas were trapped in ice, with just a small breathing patch. Most of the water surrounding them had already frozen. The frightened animals, now panicking, attempted to free themselves from the ice, but it was to no avail. Thankfully, they stopped in time, or it could have led to their deaths. The harsh, unforgiving conditions left the orcas vulnerable, adding urgency to the rescue efforts. When some local fishermen came for ice fishing, they heard disturbing sounds. Curious, they went to inspect the source of the sound. Upon arriving, they found 10 orcas hitting the ice frantically, crying for help. The panic sound of an orca is said to resemble the cry of a child. The fishermen immediately understood how dangerous the situation was for the orcas. They quickly picked up their phones, calling the appropriate local authorities. This was just the beginning of an incident that would later become infamous. One of the fishermen recalled a similar past experience where majestic marine animals lost their lives, and these men were determined not to let that happen again. Time was of the essence, and every minute wasted could be disastrous for the trapped creatures. The news about the trapped orcas moved from the local authorities to almost all TV stations in the region. The story quickly grabbed the attention of many, leaving them concerned about the orcas' fate with each passing moment. Everyone wanted to lend a helping hand in one way or another to rescue these marine animals. Within a few hours of the news release, scientists, marine rescuers, expert marine biologists, and volunteers arrived at the scene, all ready and eager to work. They knew quick action had to be taken so the situation wouldn't become worse than it already was. A large-scale rescue operation began. Dr. Angelica Green, a leading marine biologist at that time, and the head of the scientific team in charge of rescuing the orcas, was quick to assess the situation and develop an action plan. The rescuers brought in heavy machinery that could easily break through the ice, while the volunteers brought special kinds of saws that would allow them to cut through the ice effectively. The first task of the rescue team was to widen the hole the orcas were currently using to breathe, and they were also tasked with creating a path to the open sea. The rescuers used a special machine to destroy the ice, while the scientists worked with engineers to develop a system that distributed the load on the machine across the ice. This was necessary to prevent the machine from breaking through the ice. They began using a small icebreaker to clear a path from the open sea, creating a safe passage for the orcas. Slowly, but surely, they were making progress. Volunteers and biologists stayed close to the orcas during this time. The biologists ensured the animals had access to good oxygen, while the volunteers carefully monitored their progress. Despite the pressure, everyone remained calm and focused on the task. The biologists instructed the volunteers to keep the orcas' bodies wet at all times, to prevent their skin from drying out, so the volunteers poured water on them regularly. Maria, a child, noticed that one of the calves was particularly scared, so she sang a soft song to the young calf, which helped cheer it up. It was her small contribution, but it made a big difference in keeping the calf calm during the ordeal. While some of the volunteers ensured the orcas' bodies remained damp, others used wooden tools, saws, and knives, anything they could find, to help break the ice around the orcas, giving them better breathing room. The atmosphere was tense, but there was no room for hesitation. The volunteers and engineers divided into teams, creating small holes in multiple locations so the orcas would have several breathing holes instead of just one. This task was difficult, with the ice being thick and dense, but it had to be done. The ice was proving relentless, extremely difficult to destroy, but the combined efforts of the teams persisted. One of the engineers suggested using a special device that could heat the water around the ice, and everyone agreed. This machine was a game changer, speeding up the melting process significantly. As night approached, the rescue operation continued, so it was in their best interest to set up camp at the site. Temporary tents were erected along the shore, where people could rest and warm up, allowing them to work in shifts. Local residents and restaurant owners brought hot drinks and food for the rescuers. The sight of food and drinks revived the energy of the team. The locals, who had lived in the area for a while, shared their extensive knowledge of the ice's behavior. They also warned that sudden temperature drops could create dangerous ice formations, further complicating the rescue efforts if they delayed too long. They explained that the Arctic conditions in the area were unpredictable, and it would be wise for the rescuers to speed up their efforts. As the locals had warned, the weather took an unfortunate turn for the worse. The conditions became more severe with each passing hour. The cold was biting, and visibility was quickly becoming an issue as the snow thickened. Strong winds began to howl, and snow fell heavily on the site. Normally, this would be a sign for most to give up, but instead, it only fueled the rescuers' determination. Not even the freezing temperatures of the Arctic could stop them from saving the orcas, proving just how determined they were. A Dutch environmentalist and conservation expert, Peter van der Wolf, arrived at the scene, ready to use his knowledge to assist the operation. Peter was a master of the North, having lived in the Northern Hemisphere for quite a while, where he took on multiple projects. Peter said he heard about the orcas' situation from his colleagues who saw it on the news, and he offered his help. His arrival brought a sense of hope to the team, as his past experience in similar rescue missions was invaluable under such extreme conditions. Let's be honest, they really needed his expertise because having someone with experience working in the far northern hemisphere would be a huge advantage for their team. The weather forecast predicted a storm was coming soon, which meant the rescuers had to double their efforts to save the orcas in time. The little time they had just became even smaller. Peter used his knowledge of the climate to develop strategies for operating even when the storm hit. This was smart because it meant work wouldn't have to stop when the storm arrived. Despite the impending storm, the team's morale remained high, driven by a shared sense of urgency and commitment to saving the stranded orcas. Peter also made use of his connections, contacting some news outlets that began live broadcasts of the rescue operation. Now, the news had truly traveled globally. This worked to their advantage because it raised awareness of the dangers these marine animals faced and attracted resources and support from concerned individuals worldwide. The rescue teams continued working in shifts, day and night, as if their lives depended on it. They had finally been able to break a path through the ice, taking care not to harm the animals. Special heating pumps were set up to keep the newly opened path from freezing again. Each shift brought new challenges, but the team refused to let exhaustion get in the way of their mission. Orcas are quite unique creatures. If the temperature is too hot, it's harmful, and if it's too cold, it's also harmful. They need a perfect balance between hot and cold. So the engineers helped develop a special technique that made the water just right for the orcas. Peter and the other biologists used their years of experience in setting up ecological projects to ensure the equipment was properly installed to avoid harm to the marine animals. The engineering team installed lights around the open patches, which made working at night much easier. The lights also ensured the safety of all rescuers during the operation. Honestly, it was a relief to see the area so well lit, considering how challenging night operations can be. These lights were powered by a solar system, which charged during the day and functioned at night. Veterinarians and marine experts closely monitored the animals' conditions, providing adequate assistance whenever needed. One of the young calves, with brittle skin, sustained an injury after bumping into the ice walls multiple times. The veterinarians immediately provided the care it needed. Dr. Lisa Chen, the lead veterinarian on site, developed a special diet for the weakened orcas, which helped them regain their strength impressively. The engineering team also used drones to monitor the entire operation. They used the drones to track the orcas' locations, count how many breathing holes had been made, and confirm whether the open sea remained unfrozen. At one point, the drones even captured the eerie silence over the frozen landscape, adding to the tense atmosphere. A drone shot showed all the orcas gathered together in a single breathing patch, as if they were supporting one another. As temperatures dropped drastically, it became difficult for even the generators to function properly, as the equipment began to freeze. However, the engineering team was fully prepared. They used insulating materials to keep the generators working and did an excellent job of protecting both the generators and pumps from the frost. A group of mechanics went on a search for the most powerful heaters they could find and brought them back to the site. They set them up and immediately put them to good use. It felt like they were trying to fight nature itself, with all the freezing winds around them. The mechanics, working around the clock, ensured the operation continued and also increased its efficiency. With the use of the new heaters, the rescuers' work became significantly easier. The water didn't freeze up anymore, allowing them to work much faster. The local authorities played their part by ensuring the site always had enough fuel to power the generators and machines, delivering this fuel daily by helicopter. On the 5th day of the operation, the rescuers noticed the movement of the orcas had improved, and they had become much livelier. This was likely because they had more space to move around. One of the rescuers even joked that the orcas were starting to dance underwater. It was an excellent sign, indicating that the animals would soon be strong enough to break free on their own. The biologists wanted to confirm this theory, so they conducted some underwater filming to assess whether the condition of the animals had truly improved. Once the biologists confirmed that the orcas were doing much better, it sent a wave of inspiration throughout the site, giving the rescuers new energy. The rescuers used the additional pumps and heaters to widen the passage through the ice. The process was as follows. The pumps and heaters softened the ice, and the icebreakers moved through the passage, plowing through all obstacles in their path. It was a grueling effort, with everyone on edge, watching the ice slowly give way, but their determination to see the orcas free kept them pushing forward. Joy filled the atmosphere when they finally broke the last ice barrier. Now, the orcas, which had been trapped in the ice for days, could make their way out. Slowly but surely, the orcas began moving through the passage. Early the next morning, something incredible happened. The first adult orca successfully broke through to the open sea. The rescuers, seeing this, felt a deep sense of achievement. Loud cries of happiness filled the air as they congratulated one another on a job well done. The relief and joy were almost tangible. After days of relentless work, they finally saw the result they had been hoping for, and it was worth every effort. The first orca to break free let out a loud, joyful cry, as if thanking the humans for saving it. Not long after, the others followed. It became clear that the first orca was the leader of the group. This heartwarming moment, where the whole pod reunited, was recorded and applauded. When the video was uploaded online, it quickly went viral, with people from around the world expressing their appreciation for the rescue team's efforts. Seeing a few of the orcas free filled the rescuers with joy, and they immediately went back to work, determined to free the remaining orcas as well. The ones left behind were the younger orcas, so the rescuers had to be gentle, making sure they left without sustaining any injuries. The team knew that every move had to be calculated. A wrong step could panic the young orcas, making the delicate rescue even more challenging than it already was. The largest orca was the last to be freed. It was much harder for it to exit because the passage wasn't big enough. The rescuers put in extra effort to lead this huge orca out of the passage. As it made its way to the open sea, the entire team was almost brought to tears of joy. They had accomplished the goal they had set, and the result was worth every bit of effort. This success was only possible because individuals from different backgrounds and professions came together, setting aside their differences and uniting their skills as a collective weapon to tackle the situation. The rescue of these orcas became an important reminder of the value of nature. It helped individuals realize the need to take care of the environment and the role each person must play in its preservation. What really made this rescue possible was the way everyone came together. People were genuinely kind-hearted, and that made a huge difference. Watching engineers, veterinarians, and volunteers all pitch in and work side by side showed how powerful unity can be. If we could take that spirit of cooperation into our daily lives, think about how much we could achieve together. Whether it's helping a neighbor or tackling community issues, a little teamwork goes a long way. It's about recognizing that we all have a part to play in making the world a better place, just like everyone played their respective roles for those orcas. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to check out our next one shown on screen.